October 29th marked the 33rd Johannesburg Pride Parade in Johannesburg. With screaming placards, members of the LGBTIAQ+ community marched in Sandton. This amidst the US warning of a possible terrorist attack in the area. The proud and loud crowd sang struggle songs in recognition of their queer rights, which they believe are human rights. One proud disruptor is Idumile Mokwatlo, affectionately known as Dumi Powerhouse. Dumi is a strategic communications professional, makeup artist, radio host, and content producer.
I grew up in a village called Newlands, and I grew up in a small family. I'd like to think it's a small family. It's my mom and 3 other kids plus me. And growing up was just normal for me, you know. I think I only realized that normalcy is only relative. Like when you're at home, you are, you know, it feels normal. And then the outside world, when you get out, it tells you this is the type of person that you are. But I grew up in a very loving home, absolutely supportive. I've always been myself. So if I was myself at home and they approve of how I am, and not that families should approve of how people should be, but they respected how I am and they respect the way I live my life. And going out, then, you know, I went to a primary school called Johannesburg. I went to high school called Patalajani. And I experienced so many things in terms of just number one, and I think I was saved by the fact that, which is so wrong when I think about it, I was saved by the fact that I was the top student from grade 0 to grade 12. And I think that was my weapon then, you know. And then my knowledge around, you know, beauty, my knowledge around how, you know, I'm able to put things together in terms of how I look also was like a weapon, because yes, you can call me whatever you want to call me, but you can never dress better than me. I remember the first time I wore a dress was in grade 6, and we threw a party. I took my sister's thigh-high boots and a dress and I wore it to school. And obviously it was like, this is very obscure and very, you know, you're like an obscure object or an obscure person. But as I grew up to own that and live my life and live it the way I want to. My mom buying me a doll was affirming. You know, my sister doing braids on me was affirming. My aunts borrowing me their night dresses was affirming of the person that I am. For me, I wanted to be the top student. But it came with, you know, a benefit of being able to use it as a weapon against, you know, homophobia, against people jeering at me in class. A guy at the back in class is gonna tell me, oh no, what's Hana okay, you know, but I'm like, oh no, I got 100% in history, you know, I got 100% in English. I'm like number 1 at the board. So like, you're telling me this because what were the challenges I had to go through growing up in the rural areas? It has to be homophobia, even though it wasn't as hectic as I've seen other people's lives pan out to be, but homophobia, definitely. And also just the fact that people in rural areas, we don't talk about things. Like the way we grow up, it's like, it's non-verbal. Like some things are really non-verbal, but I wish I had someone to sit down with me and say, you know, like speak to me about sex, for example. We have life orientation in class, and I grew up in the era of life orientation being introduced all up to matric. But when it comes to a part where they speak about homosexuals, you have a lady that's teaching life orientation that is like a staunch Christian that is not going to talk about the things that matter, you know. And for me, that was challenging because the only reflection of me would be in a magazine. My mom didn't buy magazines, but there was a lady on the streets I live on that bought magazines, and I could page onto the last pages of Drum magazine and see, like, you know, the likes of Bokoyo, Amstel, Boiko Mesh, and that would be affirming. But it was such a challenging thing because you don't see people that look like you. I braved the wilderness to be the type of person I want to be, you know, and it's exactly what it's been. I can put on a brow, you know, I can wear mascara, I can wear mascara, I can get braids if I want to. And luckily I got a family that allowed me, okay, school holidays, you can't plait during school time, but you can have your braids now, you can have your bob now. And seeing those people really affirmed me. And I think it has a big influence on, you know, what I do now. It has a big influence on the type of things I want people to see. You know, when I started like a thing like Queer Sundays. People think it's about partying, it's about, oh, it's great, they're having a party. But if you look at my videos, I'd have like a transition from like a non-binary person, like a gay man with beard, like a gay man in a wig, like a trans girl. So I'd have like a juxtaposition of different people, you know, in one video. But for me, I want to intrinsically, you know, inform people that people like us exist. I think, you know, makeup artistry was something I did because, I mean, when I was studying at UJ, when I was doing my honors 2013, I felt, you know, very disconnected. I was working as a tutor, full-time tutor. I was working, you know, I was working on Zaziwa, a television show. You know, I was one of the junior people there. I had school full-time and I felt like I needed an escape. And the only thing that could help me escape was something that I love. And then I fell in love with it. We don't talk a lot about the difficulty of queer people permeating into different spaces. And when I do stuff on social media or when I do like a campaign or whatever, or when I just, you know, create the kind of content, I always have an intent. You know, people fell in love with my transitioning videos where I come with makeup and I come without makeup, you know. And for me it was specifically to show trans girls that you don't need to pass. You know, you can have your beard and be comfortable being seen with your beard, but that doesn't change your gender identity, you know. And that is why I do what I do. So it's quite difficult, first of all, to get into industry. So you need to be disruptive and to be able to, you know, be seen. It's very easy for cis-het people to get into things and do things. And when you're queer, you have to work 3 times harder. So when I started Instagram, you know, there was no popular queer person unless if you're on TV. There was no known queer person that was doing what we are doing. You know, we were the first. And then now I look at the generation of young people, like there's a show that I do called Birth of Stars with 3 young queer people. I mean, when we came up with the concept with the designer or the owner or the executive producer, it was a thing of what is it that we would like for these kids to do? And I think it's easier for them now. And the platforms are more allowing for them now, but it's quite difficult. So I think I did it so that I walked or I ran so that they could sprint, but I'm sprinting with them.
I'm from a very remote town, and where I'm from, there's at least like 4 out queer people. So all of them are very like super quiet, and because of that, they got bullied and I never allowed that to happen to me. I've never allowed that to happen to me from a very young age. So as much as I am soft, I want to present as this tough person so that people don't angijwayele, basically, like angijwayele.
Known for their style and quick wit, Nkuli Masemola is one of the most enduring and celebrated queer creatives of our time.
So I moved around a lot. When I was a kid, I was born in Pretoria, Louis Pasture Girls. So I was born in Pretoria and I was moved to my grandmother's after living in Pretoria for a minute. When I was 5 years old, I was moved to my grandmother's in Mpumalanga, Kwaggafontein, Kwandebele, as some people know it. And I was raised there until I was a teenager, and then I was moved again to Bronkhorstspruit. And I lived there for like my formative years. And then when I was in grade 10, 11 and 12, I started rebelling and not living at home. So I lived with my friends in Pretoria, in Arcadia, and then I moved to Joburg. But so essentially I grew up in like, growing up, I grew up in like the villages. I was Yeah, I was I played soccer, but I also like sewed for my dolls. I really was always dual, like it's so crazy. Like I was just as existing because I played soccer for like my entire primary school career. And whenever I was on the bench, I would read like People magazine or Heat magazine. It was always like, what are you gonna do? You're gonna kick like a girl or something. And I guess that was also the reason why I was like, yeah, let me show you actually. And yeah, playing soccer was really like mandatory. It wasn't even like a character thing. No, I really just did it because they were like, it's sports. You guys have to play one sport in school. And I wasn't gonna run. Like, it looks stupid running. So, soccer it was. Then it got to a point where I obviously enjoyed it. So then I played it up until I had to move again. So, I had my mom worked a lot. So we didn't have that like mom and daughter relationship, I guess. But we also didn't like each other. So it was okay. And then my dad passed away when I was 8 years old. He was like the one I was closest to. And yeah, I think after his like death, I just told myself that I was on my own. I was 8 years old. So after that, I think that's where I became like this very main character because it was just like there's no one to perform for anymore because it was my dad that was trying to prove all the time. But when he passed away, I was like, well, I don't like any of you, so I just started rebelling. Yeah, and that's how this came about, I guess. I believe in duality. So just like my tattoos, like every tattoo that you can see, there's another version of it because both of those things can exist at the same time. I'm a Pisces girl, so, koi fish. So I believe in duality. For good to exist, there needs to be bad. And for the quiet to exist, there needs to be a loud one. So me, it's not a front, it's just who I am as a person. I am very shy and social, like in quiet settings, but I'm also very loud in social settings. And that they might be both for survival, but they both make up Nguli in its entirety. Like, I'm a duo girl. Yeah. I don't believe in being stagnant. Stagnant really depresses me. Every single time my depression comes back is because I feel stuck. And I always tell myself that I have to leave. Like, I've been in Joburg for 5 years, and now I'm just like, I have to get out of here. I don't know where to go, but I have to go. And it's both good and bad, I guess, because I don't know. I have that fear that I'll never be comfortable with anything because I've never been taught comfort. Like, I've never been taught comfort, like, ever. So I think that's most of the impact that it's had on me to this day, that, like, I've never believed in comfortability in anything, in anyone.
But life has not always been easy for this young club DJ, model, and social media influencer.
A lot of things actually happened when I was in my pubescent years. A lot of traumatic things, and because of that, it made me reject, a lot of things. It made me reject, like, traditional things. And so I'm like a typical Netflix movie. Like, I'm like, those kids that literally one thing happens to them, then they're like, I'm goth. So in my puberty years, I joined the internet immediately when I literally grew a pube. And that's where I found community for the first time. And I saw people who were like me. I found out about, I was watching TV all along. I was watching the Feather Awards. I could see all of these people like exist. I was like, okay, so, I can see ego match. And I'm like, I can't tell what you are, but, like, they never came out and said like 1, 2, 3. I'm like, a woman or a man, or they always had this flamboyance to them. And I always, was like, I know that I'm not a full-blown woman, but I also know that I'm not a man because I see y'all and I'm nothing like you. But also I'm nothing like these girls as well. So like, who am I? And so when I joined the internet, I found all of these people. I found all these artists who, like, I found Troye Sivan, you know what I mean? Like, it was a time when everyone was kind of like sprouting.
Through art, they found themselves.
there was a bigger picture. There was more to life than this small town and these 4 rooms that you lived in. And it sparked up a fire inside of me. Like, I was like, I'm going to get it. Like, I want that. You know, like, I looked at Vintage Crew. Do you remember Vintage Crew? I looked at them, like, I was at the Pride where, like, Lishay was wearing that one iconic outfit. And I looked and I was like, I'm gonna meet you one day and you won't even know what knocks you. But I remember I met Mantere Bane and she was like, you're gonna be a star. And I was like, oh, you don't even know me, but okay, cool. Because I was like I was so excited, you don't understand. I spoke to everyone, I was embarrassed that I had nothing to lose. Like, I was from Kwakobitolo, so like no one even, you know. So it sparked the fire inside of me. I knew that I could become that and I could surpass that. Like, I could be a star, like I always said I was going to be. And yeah, I got motivated, I guess. Through it all, I'm working towards something, or working towards someone, actually, more than anything. To be honest, there's like I'm very dreamy, again, a Pisces. So like, the idea of me already exists in my head. Like, I'm far in my head. Like, I'm a 30-year-old in my head. But then I have to work towards that 30-year-old, and I have to work towards the people that are going to make up that person that I'm going to be. And that requires me to work as hard as I can, I guess. And that includes, but I do things that align with me so that I don't have to force it, because I've always believed in effortless coolness. Like, that's why I'm saying my work ethic is not, I'm not the best, I'm not Beyonce. So like, I'm a DJ because I know how to mix music in my head. Like, if I hear a song, I know how to, like, I can tell you the 4-part beat, I can tell you the harmonies at the back, and I can tell you how, like, what song it's gonna mix into. I was able to do that before I DJ'd, and then when I DJ'd, it just was so free-flowing. And that's why I still play music that I was always going to play. Modeling was, girl. That was sprung up on me. Everyone was just like, wow. And I was like, okay, cool, let's do it. And then being popular on the internet has always been a thing for me, like I said. So everything just really came together. Now it's like, it's become more than me. Like, I feel like I'm not living for myself anymore. Even though I am, like, don't get me wrong, like, this is my life. I do that. I pay the bills, I take care of myself. But there's like generations looking up to me now. And before, I used to, like, every time someone said that to me, it was almost like I was so scared of like sounding very like full of myself and being like, yo, I don't have fans. Like, don't say that, because there's people who like will see this and be like, oh, she thinks she got fans. But in reality, there is a kid telling me that they are my biggest fans. So what's up? Like, what up? Like, what am I supposed to say? But apart from them being fans or supporters or whatever word people want to use to make themselves feel better, I see those people and I'm like, damn, if I was your age, I really would have loved to see me right now. And so I guess like 15-year-old me that went to Pride drives me now. Like, they look at me right now and they're like, yeah, girl, go get it.
Government, among some of the priorities is to recognize the rights of the LGBTIA plus community and ensuring that we mainstream our programs in line with that. But also it is important to recognize that in anything that we have to do as society, we have to recognize their rights and respect them and be able to show up where they have activities. Because for us to encourage each and every family member to accept that they might have a child that is LGBTIA plus person, they themselves have to accept first. So as the provincial government, we are demonstrating that it is correct. Let us embrace each other and support each other. You know, in Gauteng, there have been incidences where either gays or lesbians, they've been killed. Quite a lot of incidences where there have been corrective rapes that have been done. Others, were sitting, enjoying, having fun, and a man looks at them and just feels hooty. They want to prove if they are a man or a woman. So it's such incidences that have actually mobilized most of us to be able to support and ensure that in each and everything that we do, we ensure that we embrace the LGBTIA plus community. But over and above, ensure that like there was this bomb threat here in Sentin. There's a lot of deployment of security, of law enforcement officers in ensuring that this event becomes a success. We don't take threats lightly, we take them serious, but life goes on. Our citizens can't live in fear, all because there's some threat that they said is going to happen. So that is why we see all of us here celebrating and having fun. And it's so exciting to see so many young people.
My big day, it's more like my second birthday actually. I'm here to celebrate myself, my authentic self, to be who I've always wanted to be in front of the whole world, to see how authentic I can be, because whether we like it or not, we grew up not being our own authentic selves. But today it's very special, and I've always been looking forward to that one day that I'll be at the LGBTIQ Pride. Now this is the time for me.
I think pride is really, really important. I think there's sort of 4 key pillars to the reason that we should be doing this. You know, number one is remembrance for the people who went before us. You know, people had bricks thrown at them walking in the streets of Hillbrow. It's to celebrate where we've come so far today, and it's to remember, or to create remembrance for the rest of the world that we are still here and we're not going anywhere. And lastly, it's just a lot of great fun.
Because I've always wanted to experience how it is to be with my family, and since there's a pride here in Sentin, I wondered why not. And this is my first pride actually, so I'm really excited about what the day has for me.
I want trans women to know that they matter, and know that they're seen, and know that there is nothing that is impossible.
I have very big shoes to fill. And also, I feel like our lives are at risk every day, still. So I don't have the luxury of not living my life. I could literally get de-worded when I go outside. Like so many of us are murdered every day, and we are reported as a stat. We're not being taken care of. We're not being protected. There's not a lot of, I don't know what to call them, those NGOs that a lot of people have that we don't have. And so it almost feels like I have to live my life, because anytime is tea time for me. And I know that's not a good reason to be living, but to live doesn't mean you're alive, I guess. The one thing that I'd like to be remembered for is that I embodied my name, that I was free, that everyone saw me do it. Like, yeah, now you're gonna make me cry. But no, for real, like, I just wanna know that everyone like knows that I did my best, and even if they don't, they saw me do my best. I want to be unforgettable. I want to be tattooed. I want to be a muse. I don't want to hide behind mystery or not being too much, because again, like, literally our lives aren't guaranteed. I don't know how many times I've stepped out and I've received death threats, or I've been told that I'm eventually going to be, killed. I don't like saying kill on like national TV because there's kids watching. But yeah, I want to be remembered for being free. I want to be remembered for being free. Yeah.